I know that's hard to hear right now, so you probably don't want to hear that from me. Alakazam, I didn't say it. Immigration Minister, the Honorable Marc Miller, did not come into office to play. Back in August, when I got together with immigration consultant Minerva McBean from McBean Immigration Consulting, we sat down and we kind of got an update on what was going on in immigration. And my sentiments when I heard we had a new immigration minister from Quebec, this is what I had to say.
It's changed. It's changing. It's changing.
Even our immigration minister.
Oh, right. Right. Don't forget that.
So it's no longer Sean Fraser, the Honorable Sean Fraser. It's now the Honorable Marc Miller, and he has he's from Quebec actually, and he has a law background. So.
I don't know how to interpret it. It's changing. He's from Quebec. Quebec almost wants to be its own country. The immigration laws in Quebec is so different.
It's so different. It's entirely different. So.
Right? So that is how I felt, because I was like, oh, from Quebec. But really and truly, he is really shaking up the system right now. And the truth and in fact is that it's necessary. It's drastic, but it's so necessary for you guys, to protect you guys. Now, he sat down with CBC News and he had a very interesting conversation, just commenting on the announcement that he made and the changes that he's making to international students, right? He's not out for international students, and a lot of what he's doing, it's kind of like the good have to suffer for the bad, because a lot of private institutions have popped up and their whole goal is to exploit international students, give them low quality or subpar education for top dollar, with some sort of a hope and promise that you have a way to stay in Canada. And really and truly, based on the math is not mathing. There's too many international students relative to how many can actually convert into permanent residents based on the yearly cap. The math is not mathing. If there's 900,000 study permits and the cap for each year for all permanent residents, including refugees, including parents and grandparents, including spousal sponsorship, including caregivers, all of that stuff is included in the 500,000. So only a percentage of that 500,000 can come from international students. And there are 900,000 international student permits active right now. The math isn't mathing. There are going to be some of you that are going to have to go home, or unfortunately, I hope not, but be in like legal status or limbo. So I picked out a couple of key things that Marc Miller said in his interview with CBC. So let us hear what he has to say, first of all, about whether or not, okay, so all these companies are popping up, and on an individual basis, companies, yes, they want the money, they want the international student funds. But here's what Marc Miller said about that.
From that, the largest institutions in Canada to the smallest, this has become big business. And you have a lot of players trying to make a quick buck out of this. And the question to the government of Canada, obviously, given the economic impact of this, is this money that we really want or need in Canada? And I see it as a short-term game with a lot of long-term pain. And we need to sort of change that conversation. You mentioned...
Yes. Now, when you think about it, guys, population growth, natural population growth, when people are born, is babies. Babies don't need a car. They need, a base level model of healthcare, provided that everything is okay with the child. They don't need school immediately. They don't need a new house because they're born into a house. So natural population growth by birth and by death is something that you can more than likely sustain for the most part, because they don't need things immediately. And so when somebody is born, based on how many people are born in a year or whatever, then they can plan 10 years from now they're going to need this. But this is even just forget international students and all this cap thing and all of that stuff. 500,000 is the cap each year for permanent residents in Canada. Imagine 500,000 grown people, They need a car, they need a house, they need healthcare, they need school, they need jobs, they need supermarket stuff at the supermarket. They're gonna get sick. The other day I went into Shoppers Drug Mart. All the Dayquil was done. So I had to resort to a NyQuil, or I saw a blue Dayquil that I'm sure fooled a lot of people because Dayquil is usually orange, but there was a blue Dayquil. Apart from that, all of the Dayquil on the shelf was done in that store. People need resources more immediately and at a greater demand than babies being born. So it has ripple effects just by, like him say, a couple of private institutions trying to make a quick buck. Now, here is what he said about the study permits. Like, a lot of people are now kind of in limbo, like, oh my gosh, should I apply for my study permit? Here is what he had to say about that.
That's where you're seeing the challenges, but universities, public colleges have turned to international students to make up for, quite frankly, funding gaps. So as you impose this cap, and you talk about Ontario and BC, we're almost certainly going to see their allotments go down in terms of their number of permits.
Hold on, remember I tell you? When I was in my last video, when I was like, aka Toronto, aka Ontario, that is the province that really let things get out of control. And now he's named BC, and I think that is one of the University Canada something in BC, and I'll call no school name. But there are schools that have high intake, high population growth, high target for a lot of people, because most people, if you know anybody in Canada, they're probably in Toronto or in Ontario. Probably not everybody, but most people are I'm in Toronto, right? My aunt was in the Greater Toronto area, so yeah. So now I'm calling out the provinces them with the problems. Yeah.
What are your concerns there in terms of lost revenue for these institutions and lost opportunity for students?
Lost revenue and, frankly, lost talent if this isn't done correctly. If this is properly instituted, I believe that provinces will be able to be put in a position where they can actually reward the good actors and really shut down and punish the bad ones. They can reallocate this so that our top institutions are getting the international students and the revenue associated to them. No one is innocent in this, but there are some institutions that are doing this better than others. And I would hate to see some of the largest institutions that are world-renowned get punished for no particular reason. It's clear, though, that that growth is unsustainable, and it's causing some carry-on effects in housing, healthcare, and the reputational impact of Canada worldwide as an attractive place to do and have students study and then be able to radiate internationally. It's often become a backdoor for permanent residency, which is not what the program was intended to in the first place.
So a lot of the the universities, colleges, whatever the case may be, private institutions, even the public ones, are kind of like riding on the promise of being able to stay in Canada, or the promise of direct path to permanent residency, when even right now I got a couple of emails today about people wondering all week, like, okay, how do we get to permanent residency even without this announcement? How do we even get there, right? So let us talk about his genuine concern for the immigration system, because really and truly the immigration system is about bringing skilled labor, talented individuals, like he said, lots of talent, because Canada needs people. Canada needs immigrants, because the labor market is short of people, and there's an aging population, people not having enough children, all these wonderful things. And even if you have children right now, they need to grow up. Like, I have a child, she's Canadian, but now she's going to need to grow up before she can even get into the workforce. So she's not going to be able to fill any of these gaps right now. In fact, she has more needs than she can fulfill for Canada. So he's concerned. And like, he's not out for international students. He's really trying to, I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure because he's just coming into office, right? So he's like trying to clean up the shop. So even though I was like, I don't know how I feel, him come from Quebec, I think he's like an honest politician that's under a lot of pressure, and he's doing some necessary stuff. So now, the intention. Here's the intention. What is the intention of all these changes that he's making? And I've said some already, but let's hear it from him.
Shortages and see some of the effects that it has, and will be flexible in being able to grant them postgraduate work permits, the intention is not to ruin anyone's well thought through business model, but to really deal with the perverse incentives, the perverse effects of an ecosystem that's gone a little awry. If a province comes to us and says this particular institution has nurses that will be able to work after, and there's a labor shortage, we'll be flexible with them. But first and foremost, they should take a serious look at the cap that we've imposed, come back to us with our plan to deal with fraud predominantly and shut down institutions that have no reason to exist, as well as to shore up the system. I had a great conversation.
Knock out the fraud, which is really protecting you guys. And if there is going to be like a bunch of people kind of graduating in a certain field and they need jobs and they need postgraduate work permits, whatever the case may be, like how easily can they actually enforce it? How quickly will things be in motion before people expire in status? That's the next thing, because I think that I don't know that he has a full understanding, because he's the head. I don't know that he has a full understanding of the actual process, the timelines, and he knows how long it takes to approve things. But like, listen, even though things can take long to approve by, bills and stuff like that, he has overnight changed some things and in a very short amount of time. So you would hope, therefore, that anything to protect you guys or to help you guys going forward will therefore be as quick, because he had an interview like 2 weeks ago saying we're going to give the provinces right now the authority to clean their act up. We're going to give them a chance to clean their act up, limit things as they need to, and if we see fit, we're going to come in with a cap. Then by the next week, him said, no, cap it up, cap, where's my cap? Where is my cap? Him said, no, cap. So I don't know what happened between 1 week to the next, but he can do things overnight. So I would hope that what he's saying right now, saying, okay, if we need to just issue some postgraduate work permits, it would be within time for you guys to be able to actually get whatever it is that you need to get to stay and not fall out of status. But in any case, if things are happening for you guys and you're falling out of status and nothing don't happen yet, apply for our visitor's record so that you can stay on visitor status and have things sorted out. If you can financially do that. So now, here's the big question, the big aha for anybody who is trying to come to Canada for May intake. If you're trying to come to Canada for May intake, I don't think it's possible anymore. I don't think so. It's possible right now. However, you never know, because things are changing overnight. So let us see what he says about actually issuing or approving study permits, right? Because we know that we need this attestation letter now. So,
Just that you're kind of focusing on here. But the permits were still issued by the federal government. So why did your department go along with the surge in the approval of the permits when this was clearly moving at a pace that is now obviously not sustainable?
Look, a couple things, and you're right in saying that, but we do have a role in the ability to use levers. They're pretty rough, turning on taps and turning them off. I had said previously that a national cap, if it were just imposed without having put some thought into it, weighing it by province, being fair, is like doing surgery with a hammer. We need to put provinces on notice to get their acts together, but we also have a role in shoring up the role that we play in eradicating fraud. It's why I announced a recognized institution model that'll separate sort of the wheat from the chaff, and also some more fraud mechanisms, for example, making sure that students have double the financial resources to live in Canada. It's not cheap to live in Canada, as well as verifying offer letters. And then the next step, which is putting in a weighted cap based on the population in provinces, in order to make sure that people are just dealing with responsibly with their area of jurisdiction. This is largely an area that has gone uncapped for about 40 years without any problems, and we shut off the taps completely during COVID with a lot of awful effects on these institutions, and we certainly heard from them. So there has been a role, but now it's much more accrued with the availability in doubling the financial funds and making sure that we're verifying offer letters and then putting an intake cap. So to be clear, as of today, we're not taking any more applications until provinces issue a letter to us backing an application. So they do have an interest from now until March 31st to get their houses in order, or else there will be no application and permits issued with respect to any particular province.
So were the provinces?
So a lot of things hinge on the individual provinces to get their house in order and get their together, because without that attestation letter, you cannot apply for a study permit. And I think that this is another thing to factor into your processing time, because God bless how long them are going to take for you that the attestation letter there. So if processing time for study permits was 4 weeks, let's say, you need to tack on some more weeks for the processing time for the attestation letter. I'm very interested to see how things roll out. Now, we know that last year does make it sound far. It's January now. In December the 7th, thereabouts, Honorable Marc Miller announced doubling the study permit proof of funds requirement, right? And in this very he acknowledges that a couple times in this report, and he's honest when he said this.
Students have double the financial resources to live in Canada. It's not cheap to live in Canada, as well as
it's not cheap to live in Canada, guys. It is not cheap to live in Canada. Rent is out of this world. Okay, if you're lucky, and I mean different provinces have different maximum or minimum in terms of cost of living, and your cost of living video for all of the things that you need to account for in your budget is coming up, guys. I'm working on that video. Rent, groceries, this, that, all of these things that come together. $2,000 easily for just rent. Like your monthly expenses could easily come up to $5,000 depending on the city that you're living, right? And I mean, yes, if you're catching or if you're sharing rooms, it's definitely more cost effective. But like you said, it's not cheap to live in Canada. And I mean, everything is relative to how much you're making, right? And this is where you need to be taken into account, especially if you're looking for jobs. Not just any job. You need to have a job that's going to pay your bills, okay? Plus some. You're not just trying to come here to live paycheck to paycheck, right? Okay. All right. So we're almost wrapping this up here. We want to just jump to this part here where he genuinely, I think, is one, trying to clean up the integrity of the immigration system, but he's also trying to protect you guys from being exploited.
Immigration. I obviously worry about the international students that are studying today. I'm not out there to target them. They deserve the dignity that they are entitled to as human beings. But clearly, some of them have been part of a system where they've been taken advantage of and given false hope that they may be able to stay in this country. And I don't want them to be hurt.
No. And a lot of you have been given false hope. So now we need to get you on a different path towards permanent residency. You guys know that I love the Atlantic Immigration Program. And I talk about it all the time. I'm building the job list for you guys. It is ready. And you guys have access to it right now. Hit the link in the bio or in the description to get more information on how to access this list. I'm building this list actively to help it just make sure that you guys are applying for the right jobs, because some of you guys are out there just applying for jobs in Canada thinking that because it is a job in Canada somehow this employer is going to say, you know what, let me just get an LMIA for you, and they may not, right? So this list helps you to sift through to make sure that you're applying to jobs that are LMIA exempt by designated employers in Atlantic Canada. Click the link below. All right, so now finally now, how do Canadians feel about this? Because like these kind of things, when these things happen, especially when immigration has an impact on the things that Canada likes, Canada start to turn against immigrants, which is kind of silly because immigrants are only here because they are allowed to be here. They were approved by your government, right? So it's not like people just woke up one day and jumped on a boat and rode over to Canada and they're just here. No, they went through the system legally, and the system was set up in an unsustainable way, and so sometimes it leaves a bad taste in Canadians' mouth, and they turn against immigrants. But here's what he thinks, or he says, about how Canadians feel about the system.
Canadians still are very positive towards immigration.
I don't know about that.
Said to various levels of government that we do need to get our acts together, federally, provincially, and territorially, and be more organized when it comes to the impacts on the healthcare system, the impacts on the educational system, the impact on housing. We also need to look at the other side of the equation, which is the services that we've come to know and love in this country that are part of our DNA that wouldn't be there without immigration. And so if we shut off the taps in a way that is just reactionary and I believe unreasonable, we'll have some effects that are far worse than some of the stuff that we're seeing today. But again, today was not a housing announcement. It will have an impact on some areas of housing. It was fundamentally 3 important measures to make sure that we have a system on international student visas that that has some integrity to it.
Yeah. So if you're worried about immigration in the future, I don't think this is any need to worry. Like he said, like they need immigrants. And until they don't, this is going to be going on. And the thing is that they're not taking into account that, one, some immigrants did not come here to stay, which is going to be in my Leaving Canada video soon. Some people came here intending to stay and chose not to stay. So a percentage will leave. So you still have to continue filling. Some will get really ambitious and become entrepreneurs, and so they don't necessarily plug the labor shortage hole. So you're going to need people anyway. It will be a system that will be in place for a very long time because the country depends on it. So yeah, that was it for that. Like, I wanted to touch on that because I watched this thing and I found like these were my commentary. It's like you're watching a game and commentary. Oh, he scores. Marc Miller is not out for you guys. I think what he's doing is necessary. It's radical and drastic measures, which sometimes feel inhumane because, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are just emotionally, it's tough right now, just processing, okay, how does this affect me? Not just how does this affect me, for the people that know it affects them, like, okay, what now? What do I do now? What do I do next? What would I do? So it can be like emotionally tough, and I can only imagine what it's like for you guys. But understand that, one, the good have to suffer for the bad. 2, it is out to protect you guys. And also, you know, we're gonna have a live on Sunday for you guys to come on, share your thoughts, hear our thoughts about the whole thing, and we can talk one-on-one. Not one-on-one, we're going to be on a Zoom call. We're going to be streaming it on YouTube as well, but the people on the Zoom call are going to get the attention, really. So RSVP link is in the description and everything to be a part of that call. Just to express how you're feeling, how has it impacted you, how can we help you now to recover from this if this has impacted you, because I know that there's a lot of people that haven't been impacted by these changes, but understand that it is kind of for the better. I know that's hard to hear right now, so you probably don't want to hear that from me. Alakazam, I didn't say it. Edit it out. No, I probably won't edit it out. I have a Harry Potter wand here that you forget what I just said. It will work out, guys. Things will work out. Join us on Sunday at 3 p.m. for the live Zoom and streaming live on YouTube when we talk about these changes together with you guys, answer your questions, address some of your stuff. How do you get an attestation letter? We don't know yet. Okay, only Quebec probably has this in place. So that is it for now. I appreciate you. If this was helpful, subscribe for more updates, subscribe for more videos like this, subscribe if you need help, ongoing support. I'm your friend from a distance. I don't know you, but you know me, and I'm here to support you along your journey. Hit the like button if this was helpful, share with anybody you think this is helpful for, and I will see you in the next video.